Most AI business videos begin with a shopping list, a chatbot subscription, an automation subscription, a CRM subscription, and 3 more tools before anything useful happens. We are doing the opposite. In this video, we will design one practical business system with a software subscription cost of 0. It captures a new lead, organizes the information, prepares a relevant response with a local AI model, sends the message, and records what happened. You do not need to buy anything to understand or build the starter version. You provide a computer, internet access, and a little setup time. That is the entire constraint. The system solves a boring and expensive problem. A customer fills out a form after business hours. The information lands in an inbox or spreadsheet. Nobody notices until the next morning, and by then the customer has contacted 3 competitors. The goal is not to pretend a robot is a salesperson. The goal is to acknowledge the inquiry immediately, summarize what the person needs, prepare a helpful first response, and alert the human owner. Fast, organized follow-up is more valuable than a flashy artificial intelligence demo that never connects to a real business process. Here is the full architecture. A form captures the lead. A spreadsheet becomes the lightweight customer record. N8N coordinates the workflow. Alama runs an AI model locally on your computer and drafts the response. Gmail delivers the acknowledgement and sends an internal alert. This modular design matters. If the business grows, you can replace the spreadsheet with a real CRM, move the workflow to a hosted server, or switch to a paid model. You are not rebuilding everything. You are replacing one component at a time after the system proves that it is useful. Component 1 is the intake form. Google Forms is the simplest choice when the rest of the workflow already lives in Google Workspace. Tally is a polished alternative with a useful free plan. Keep the form short: name, email, service, a brief message, and clear permission to reply. Do not collect sensitive information simply because the form allows it. Every extra field creates friction for the customer and more data for you to protect. The form should answer one question: what does the business need to know in order to take the next responsible action? Component 2 is Google Sheets. It is not a permanent replacement for a mature customer relationship management system, but it is an excellent place to prove the workflow. Use 1 row per lead. Add columns for status, the generated draft, the sent timestamp, and the person responsible for follow-up. The important idea is visibility. A business owner should be able to open one sheet and see what arrived, what the system prepared, what was sent, and what still requires a human. If the process is confusing in a spreadsheet, adding an expensive CRM will not fix the underlying process. Component 3 is N8N Community Edition, the open-source workflow engine. You can run it on your own computer with Docker. The workflow starts with a webhook receiving the form submission. A validation step checks that the email exists and that the customer gave permission to receive a reply. The workflow then sends a carefully limited prompt to the local model, receives a draft, sends the approved type of acknowledgement, alerts the business owner, and updates the spreadsheet. Self-hosting removes the software subscription, but it also makes you responsible for updates, security, backups, and keeping the machine online. Free does not mean responsibility-free. Component 4 is Alama, which runs supported open models locally. The AI is not making business decisions. It receives a small set of fields and drafts a short response. A good prompt says, acknowledge the inquiry, mention the requested service, avoid inventing prices or availability, ask one useful follow-up question, and keep the response under a fixed word count. The system should never promise that a job can be completed, quote a price it does not know, or provide legal, medical, or financial advice. Narrow prompts are easier to test, easier to review, and far less likely to embarrass the business. Component 5 is Gmail. The customer receives a transparent acknowledgement, not a deceptive message pretending to be a human expert. The business owner receives a separate internal email containing the lead details, the generated draft, and the recommended next action. Set the reply to address correctly so the customer can reach the real business. Then record the message identifier and timestamp in the sheet. Logging is not decorative. It is how you diagnose failures, prevent duplicate messages, and prove what the system actually did when someone asks. Put the components together. A prospect submits the form. The workflow verifies the required fields and consent. The lead is stored with a new status. The local model drafts a response using only the supplied facts. Gmail sends the acknowledgement and alerts the owner. Finally, the workflow writes the result back to the sheet. Add a stop condition so a repeated webhook cannot send the same message twice. Add an error branch that marks the row for manual review instead of silently failing. The automation coordinates the routine steps. The human remains responsible for judgment, pricing, commitments, and the actual customer relationship. A $0 software stack still has costs. Your computer consumes electricity and must remain available. Local models need enough memory and may respond slowly on older hardware. Self-hosted software needs patches and backups. Gmail has sending limits, and free product terms can change. Before connecting real customers, test with dummy data. Create cases for missing emails, unusual messages, duplicate submissions, and model failure. If the business cannot tolerate an outage, the correct next step may eventually be a paid hosted service. The free stack is for proving value, learning the workflow, and avoiding premature subscriptions. When should you pay? Upgrade when a specific bottleneck appears. If the computer cannot stay online, use hosted automation. If several people need assignments and reporting, move to a real CRM. If the local model is too slow or inaccurate, evaluate a commercial model. If email volume grows, use a transactional email provider with appropriate permissions and deliverability controls. This is the Lean Agent Lab rule. No subscription before a tested workflow demonstrates value. A paid tool should remove a measured constraint, not create the feeling that progress is happening. Your first implementation should be deliberately small. Create one form for one service. Use dummy information and run 10 different test leads through the system. Review every draft. Track failures and rewrite the prompt when the output is vague. Confirm that duplicate submissions do not create duplicate messages. Document where consent is collected. Assign one human owner for follow-up. Only after the pilot works should you connect a real website. This method is slower than publishing a dramatic automation screenshot, but it produces a system the business can actually trust. Before you buy anything, track 4 numbers for 2 weeks. First, estimate the manual minutes saved for every lead. Second, measure the time from form submission to the first useful reply. Third, count errors, duplicates, and drafts that require major rewriting. Fourth, track how many qualified conversations or appointments the workflow helps create. Put those numbers in the same sheet as the leads. If the system saves time, responds faster, and produces useful opportunities without creating unacceptable errors, you have evidence for the next investment. If it does not, improve the process before paying for a larger tool. That is the complete zero subscription architecture. Intake, record, coordination, local intelligence, and delivery. The companion files include the starter sheet bridge and the exact field structure used in this episode. In the next build, we will assemble the N8N workflow node by node and add the error path that prevents accidental duplicate messages. If you want practical AI systems that begin with free tools and earn the right to become more sophisticated, subscribe to Lean Agent Lab. We build one useful business workflow at a time.